Hi guys, Brand here, and welcome to another Alien Earth episode review. If you're unfamiliar with how we do this, we do a spoiler-free section for about 2 minutes-ish, give or take, and then we go into the spoiler section. This is episode 7, so this is the second to last episode, which means we're going into the finale next week, and the whole series is going to be over, at least until they inevitably give us another season. This is usually where a series takes it up to an 11 to give us the stakes and set the setting for our final confrontation among characters, plot threads, etc. It's the big bang to send us off and wanting more for the next season. And for some reason, and I'm not too big a fan of it, they blow up a lot of stuff to make it interesting and then immediately solve it for some reason. There's not really a whole lot of stakes or things I am worried about going into the finale here. There's like maybe one or two things I'm like, oh, it's kind of monka, that's kind of scary, but otherwise, like, they kind of resolve most of the brewing issues that have been happening all season, and it's all wrapped in a bow and it's already done. So it makes me wonder what's really going to happen in the actual finale. There's thankfully some depth given to some of the Lost Boys that haven't had it so far. One of them kind of comes out of nowhere, and we'll talk about that. So I appreciated that. And I think one of the things I am beginning to realize about this series, for better or worse, depending on who you ask, I think that the Lost Boys really are the focus of the show, and the aliens just kind of there. And that includes the other aliens as well, including the bugs, the Ocellus. They really are kind of just taking a back seat to the Lost Boys plot, which makes me kind of sad considering the fact that the show is called Alien Earth. Like I said earlier in some of my other episode reviews, I think that a lot of this show either lives or dies based on if they stick the landing on the ending. And I think this 7th episode in the series really tells us and makes it evident that, like, yeah, sure, the Xenomorphs in this story, but the story's not really about them. It's about these half human, half synthetic, hybrids, and that they're the most important thing. And this alien thing is not, that's just kind of there. And I think that, like, there's one scene in particular that includes the Xenomorph where it's just kind of like very quickly like shifted off screen, and we get a line of dialogue to explain something serious happening with the Xenomorph that's plot affecting. And I think it just dawned on me in that moment that, like, for some reason, the Xenomorph is auxiliary in its own story. And while it's cool and this series has given us a lot of strong and awesome alien content, I think that depending on how this next episode goes, it might, conversely lower the ratings of a lot of the episodes that I've given so far and shave off a point or two, just because while I think the Lost Boys thing is kind of like, it's interesting, it's thought-provoking, I think in an Alien Earth series, I want to see it be mostly about the alien or the other aliens. I think that's what most fans are saying, even the ones that like it, is they like the Morrow stuff because Morrow was on the Maginot where all this stuff began. I think they like Kirsh, who is obviously putting his own angles towards what he wants out of the aliens. I think the Ocellus is probably the most popular character to come out of the show, which is really funny because it's just an eyeball with legs. It's a very smart eyeball with legs, and it's very cute, okay? But, like, that's what people are interested in. But the show writers are like, yeah, the Lost Boys, super fun, interesting, and super fun and cool. It's like, okay, well, I'd rather it be more about the other thing. I think there's also another aspect to this that, like, I forgot who. I was watching somebody's review of the last episode. They said the writers found a cheat code that because they're kids in human adult bodies, they have this cheat code where, like, they can make really dumb, bad decisions, and you can't be like, oh, it doesn't make sense. It's like, well, they're kids. So I see a lot more of that this episode. I don't know. It feels bad going into the finale and being not optimistic, but I wanted a lot more out of this episode, and it went a very strange direction, and I hope it pays off anyways. And I hope I can look back at this video and go, hey, I'm wrong, and that ending was super cool. Yeah, that's going to be it for the spoiler-free section. I can only talk as vague as I can for a while, so there should be a timestamp that shows up right down here at the bottom left that tells you what timestamp to go to if you want to skip that and just go to the episode rating. Okay, now going into the spoilers section. Man, what an episode, and sheesh, it went some strange directions that I honestly, for somebody who is mostly positive going into each episode of Alien Earth and really liking it, I feel less excited about the finale now after this episode, which is weird because you're supposed to make me more excited. So one of the main things that's happening is that obviously Slightly and now Smee, that gets wrapped into it, is trying to get Arthur off the island so they can get the oncoming chestburster to Weyland-Yutani. They do get that all the way almost there, but if you guys have watched an Alien movie before, you know that the victim of the face hugging does get up at a certain point and walks around. And Arthur does do that, and he does get chest bursted before he can actually make it to the rendezvous with Morrow, which makes Morrow very unhappy. The alien runs away. Kirsh ends up getting it. We are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but essentially that whole plot line just kind of like went nowhere. Like this whole setup of like, this whole plot setup of like, okay, well, we're going to infect Arthur, and then Arthur is going to be handed over to Weyland-Yutani, and then Slightly and Smee are going to hand him off to Weyland-Yutani. It's like that. None of that happened. But that all went belly up. It did not work out. So that whole plot line, for putt, gone. That is, in a sense, already been resolved before the finale. So we don't have any big payoff with that plot line in the finale at all. The Kirsh story does get a payoff here, and it's really weird and kind of confusing because initially when things first start going wrong at the facility, Kirsh, catches them trying to get Arthur out of the building, but instead of stopping them, he advises them the quickest way to get out, which makes you think, oh wow, I was right this whole time. He either hates Boy Cavalier or he's working as a double agent for Honey. For whatever reason, whether personal or professional, he is no longer on the side of Boy Cavalier, which we find out to be also wrong in a plot twist at the end of this episode, where he double crosses and busts Morrow and the Weyland-Yutani troops and takes them, basically imprisons them with a much larger prodigy force. He also captures the chest burster that burst out of Arthur, so now that's also in Prodigy's possession again. It makes me wonder what's going on and why he went for the double cross to begin with. I don't know. If the answer truly is just like, oh, well, Kirsh set a trap just to catch Morrow, I feel like the collateral damage that he allowed to happen to just catch Morrow and catch Weyland-Yutani is goofy. It's silly. And if you're really going to go the route of like, oh, well, now we have proof of corporate espionage and now Weyland-Yutani's in trouble, you should have played that card last episode, because they just had a big meeting between Boy Cavalier and Yutani herself where Morrow was present, and Morrow saw Boy Cavalier coercing, I forget his name, the engineer guy from the Maginot. So Morrow already has proof that he downloaded to his head that he can show everyone that there was corporate espionage happening on the other side. So if we're really going the route of, oh, well, now we have proof that Weyland-Yutani is doing corporate espionage, technically they have proof back, and they just never brought that up, which creates a giant plot hole. I really hope it's not one of those situations where the writers just like forgot that Morrow saw that. I really hope it doesn't go that direction, because it's really going to make that awkward. Joe and Wendy are going to try to get off the island. They end up convincing Nibbs to come with them, but not Curly, which probably isn't shocking for the fact that Curly is kind of like a, bootlicker when it comes to Boy Cavalier. She does have some clarity here, and she's the character that I was talking about in the spoiler-free section. And I'm like, well, she does get some plot here, which is pretty cool. She's kind of like, other than Smee, kind of like the most forgotten of the Lost Boys, because she has that one scene very early on where she's supposed to be kind of like cozying up to Boy Cavalier, which never gets touched on literally ever again in the series so far. It kind of comes up here where she's like, no, Boy Cavalier means well for us. And Wendy's like, no, he doesn't. And then she has kind of like an emotionally vulnerable moment where she goes to Dame Sylvia and it was like, Mom, I don't know what's happening. And I didn't even know they had that relationship. That was, as much as I like that for Curly, because I feel bad that Curly has no writing, it's very like out of nowhere that like Curly sees Dame Sylvia as their mom. I know it's kind of like implied throughout the series that like Arthur and Dame Sylvia are like pseudo adoptive parents to them to help them get through this journey, but I don't think it was ever established that that was their relationship, that they would like actually call Arthur and Dame like mom and dad. I don't think that was ever established at any point. So for Curly to come out of nowhere and be like, oh, Mom, I don't know what's happening, and literally like cuddle up with her because she's crying and upset, like, cool, but where did that come from? I'm finally glad Curly got something, because she's been kind of shafted when it comes to plot and story and any sort of scene for a while. But that did come completely out of nowhere, which was something. One thing I do like is that Boy Cavalier has finally found his match, because that's kind of been his whole plot line the entire series, is that he is trying to find somebody who is as intellectually powerful and somebody he can actually have a conversation with, as he puts it himself. And he finally found that in the TS Ellis, because he found out the TS Ellis is not only a super smart, like, alien predator, but it is also a very, very smart, intelligent creature in general, a civilized creature, because it knows all the numbers of pi. So he's like, whoa, finally, the right one to have a conversation with. And very darkly, he's like, let's just get this into human right away. Yeah, that moral bankruptcy there. Yeah, holy moly. He's like, immediately, let's just kill somebody. Let's just put it in somebody's face. Yeah, but who's surprised? I'm not surprised. We did get confirmed that Isaac is, for all intents and purposes, deceased. There is a slight hint that with a lot of work and some unfounded technology that they could potentially bring him back, but for all intents and purposes, he is actually gone. I had heard some people in some reviews say that, like, oh, well, they fixed Nibbs, so they can probably fix Isaac, but it's a little bit more serious with their case. So, yeah, they're gone. There's also like a double cross again, where for some reason the search and rescue guys that got like kind of like pseudo adopted by Prodigy onto the island, double cross Joe, who was trying to get the Lost Boys off the island, which I felt was very, very weird. I don't know, besides why to like set up this like more intense ending that they care so much. Like, if Joe's going to go rogue and cause trouble, that doesn't reflect poorly on them. That's not, they, like, I don't know why they care. I think that's the thing that I maybe lost in the plot where somewhere. It's like, I know Siberian and, I forget the other guy's name. They were like, hey, don't do this. Don't try to get off the island. We got something good here. But like, if he goes rogue and he causes a lot of trouble, that in no way creates issues or reflects on him or on them in any way poorly. So I don't know why they cared enough to set up this ambush at the dock. Like, I could see it if they were like trying to really get in the good graces of Boy Cavalier and Prodigy because they liked their position, but that's not really how they framed it. They framed it as if they were mad at Joe and they did it because they were mad at Joe, which to me, I'm like, okay, well, like, if Joe does something bad and he gets like imprisoned or executed, like, how's that affect you? It was very interesting. We did get some really cool stuff. We saw Nibbs rip a guy's jaw off, which was super sick. I was theorizing very early on, especially when she first started having her breakdowns and issues throughout the series, that she's gonna go all kill a robot, which would have been super sick. We kind of get that here, although a little bit more stable. She's clearly still not doing well in the mental department. Right? Clearly, it shows that whatever memory wipe they didn't exactly fix things, and she's still kind of in a situation where she's very unstable, I think is the best way to put it. So we got to see her go after some Prodigy soldiers and do some really gnarly stuff. At the end of the resolution of that scene is that Joe betrays Wendy because Nibbs is going on a murdering spree. And Joe, being a good person with empathy, is like, okay, well, we want to escape, but I don't want like literally everybody to get massacred here. So he uses the stun part of the weapon that you saw Morrow use at the beginning of the series on his weapon to stun Nibbs and put her down so she won't murder more people. So now Wendy is mad at Joe, and it just feels like, I don't know, most of the conflict are happening with characters that I don't really care about too much. So I don't know. I feel like there were so many double crosses that like I was expecting another one. Like, until I like literally paused and scrolled down to see how much was left on the episode in terms of time, I was like, are we gonna get a fourth or a fifth double cross? Is there gonna be a double cross for our double cross? Whoa! it was getting a little egregious. Also, we do get confirmation of like the true nature of the relationship between Wendy and the Xenomorphs. It's almost all but confirmed that they see her as a queen of some sort. Like, it's not just like, oh, you and I are the same and we talk to each other, but no, they actually listen and take orders from her, which they do in this episode. They do in this episode because one of the invasion forces from Wayland Yutani actually stumbles upon Joe, Nibbs, and Wendy, and then she sticks to the and then she attempts to do so again at the ending, which Joe stops her from doing so for the same reason of like, hey, this is not going to turn into a massacre just so we can go home. Here's another criticism, and I feel bad for being so harsh on it, because I think overall the series is great, but man, is it getting lost in the weeds. I don't know what Wendy's deal is. I don't know what her moral compass is. I don't know what she's thinking, because it feels like it kind of is changing on a dime. So, like, first she's like, okay, we're in danger and things are bad. And I don't like how Boy Cavalier is treating not only the aliens, but us as the synthetics, which means, okay, well, this is an altruistic person. She is developing an altruistic personality that cares about life to the point where even animal life or extraterrestrial life that she doesn't understand means a lot to her. But then she flips and she's like, oh, well, I can just summon the alien to kill anybody whenever I want. And I don't feel bad about that at all. And it doesn't feel like it goes together. Like, it's not like, okay, I can see like, I can see like the guys that were, coming out of the jungle the first time, the Weyland-Yutani guys, to arrest them. Like, okay, they might hurt Joe or something. Well, I want to protect them. But when they're on the dock and they're talking to Joe's teammates that he knows and who are just trying to subdue them, like they're just trying to arrest them, they're not trying to kill them. But he was like, yeah, summon the Xenomorph, kill all of them, murder all of them. Like, it's like, okay. Also, it's like, it's such a fast turnaround within one episode for Wendy to go, like, I guess it's 2 episodes. Between 2 episodes, we have gung-ho Wendy, who loves Prodigy in like episode 5, into, oh, well, there's a plot hole problem where Dame Sylvia does not instruct Nibbs or run her through the fact that she had to get some R&R. She had to have some of her memories replaced, or erased rather. That plot hole happens, and then Wendy's like, oh, well, you guys don't know what's best for us. And then she's mad at Prodigy. And now she's like so indifferent to Prodigy, period, that she's like, I will summon the Xenomorph to just kill all of you. It's like, for that to happen in 2 episodes is just like really jarring. And I think it'd be better if it had more like dedicated scenes to it. But we haven't really had any dedicated scenes to Wendy like reflecting or trying to like process her thoughts and feelings about all this stuff. She's just kind of like very reactionary and very like, it seems like she changes without much reflection or much thought, which is just like, I feel like it's just very jarring. I remember not even 2 episodes ago that Wendy was like not wanting to even leave the facility because she cared about the aliens. And she thought that she didn't even think that she wasn't safe here. So within 2 episodes, without many scenes to address it, she just completely has flipped the script of her personality. And it's like, it's not like the Nibbs thing where it's like, okay, well, clearly she's dealing with some things that could cause that. She just kind of like randomly changed. And I just don't know. I think it's one of the, I think I brought this up in the last episode review. Like, I feel like they're trying to do so much at once that a lot of stuff is getting lost in the weeds. I feel like they're trying to do an alien faithful thing with like the Maginot and Morrow, who's a very like alien coded character. They're trying to do this Lost Boy things, which is very much like the writer's own thought in baby thing. It's vaguely kind of Prometheus coded, but it's mostly just like the show's thing. It just feels like there's so many things they're trying to do at once that like they are competing for each other for screen time. And I feel like because they only did 8 episodes, there's clearly a lot of stuff that doesn't get fully fleshed out and just kind of like suddenly happens. Some of it is small stuff, like Nibbs building up to being extremely unstable and being a threat. Never mind, we just erased her memories, and now she's gonna walk with the good guys, the quote-unquote good guys here. Okay, Curly is doing this thing where she's gonna try to be a bootlicker, a brown noser up to Boy Cavalier. Oh, no, never mind. We're not doing that anymore. We haven't addressed that in like 4 episodes. I guess she's sympathetic and not doing that anymore, I guess. Like, we just forgot about that. I think the show is starting to really, especially in the later episodes, starting to suffer from an identity crisis, whether it doesn't know whether it wants to be something like profoundly thought-provoking like Prometheus, having to do with the Lost Boys Neverland thing, or if it wants to be an alien movie, which is kind of the weird place we found ourselves with Alien Covenant, where it was like very cognitively dissonant. It was trying to be both and kind of like didn't do the best of either. It wasn't really an amazing Alien movie, and it wasn't really an amazing Prometheus movie either. And it left a lot of people kind of dismayed, so much so that Ridley Scott did not make the 3rd movie that he was planning on. Now, that's not off the table. Ridley Scott said he will come back to that if he has a good idea. But the numbers were not great, which meant he was like, I guess I'm just not doing that 3rd one. And I think, unfortunately, this show is running that afoul of that again. Like I said, if they could shock me, they could make like a really crazy ending where I'm like, whoa, okay, never mind. I can see where this is going. I was wrong. I will gladly make another video saying I'm wrong. But right now it's like, it feels like I was a teacher for like 4.5 years. I think 4.5 years is the exact amount. But I taught high school social studies for a long time. This show reminds me of like a kid who was writing an essay, and it's very clear they rushed like the last page. Like I got through the first 2 or 3 pages of their essay. And I'm like, wow, this is really good. This is like A+ material. And it's very clear that in the last page, they just kind of phoned it in. They're just like, and then it's over. that's how, this is what this is giving, is that they had A+ material paper going. In this case, a show. They had an A+ tier show going. And then just like in the last 2 or 3 episodes, they're like, and it's all over. Boom. And it's like, well, where was that quality and setup you had at the beginning? I feel like I'm starting to lose sight of what they were going for. The thing I was going to talk about, by the way, that really showed me first and foremost that like the Lost Boys are just the main characters and the aliens just kind of there. Not only the xenomorph, but the aliens in general are just kind of there. Is that in order to help, create a distraction, so Joe and Wendy and Nibbs can leave, Wendy finagles the computer doing her weird thing that she did in one of the earlier episodes when Joe was trying to get off his medic duty, to open the door to the xenomorph pen, like the one that was already there that had come out of Joe's lung. And it jumps out and it's massacring everybody in the lab. And I'm like locked in. I'm like, finally, things are hitting the fan. I'm so ready to actually get invested in this ending as it snowballs into something really cool. And then they just cut away. And we never come back to that scene. The scene where the titular xenomorph, by the way, his name's on the freaking title, Alien. When the titular alien breaks out, it's not a big deal. And they cut away, and it's just the Lost Boys wandering around on their different little plot lines. And we don't get any sort of confirmation on how that scene ends. And then there's just a random throwaway line in a scene with Boy Cavalier later with his little butler guy where he's like, oh, it escaped through an air vent. I'm like, gee, it would be amazing if the show about the alien called Alien Earth would show us that. That would have been cool. I would have liked to see that. I would have liked to see how the alien escapes the lab in the show that is supposedly about the alien. It's making me like retroactively kind of like care even less about the Lost Boys. So I'm like, okay, well now you're just cutting into my alien time. Now the writers are caring so much about what you guys are doing that we've lost the plot of what the show is named after. And I think that was like the big thing that like signaled to me. It's just like, well, the alien's here, but it's not really his show. And I'm like, it's called Alien Earth. I want to see things about the alien. All right, this is going to get into the rating, and I feel bad. I feel really, really bad about this. And like I said, if they stick the landing in the next episode, and they make a really, really good ending that shocks me and pulls some threads from this episode that I didn't see coming, this will retroactively be better. This will be a better rating. But right now, I'm thinking like a 6. I'm thinking like a 6 out of 10. I think that it was an odd choice for them to go set up all these plot threads and resolve a lot of them before the finale. And I swear, if you do that thing where you're like, oh, well, I guess we'll have to turn in next season to see, I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be really frustrated. I'm going to be jaded about that. I'm not going to be excited. So if you go that route of like, well, you see, we wrapped up everything because we want you to watch the next season. You give me like an epilogue style last episode instead of like a big shebang ultimate climax final episode. I think that would be really disappointing. Really disappointing. But like I said, I hope this next episode rocks my socks off and I retroactively go back to this episode and I say, okay, this episode by itself, not amazing. This episode in tandem with the ending, really, really good actually. And you should watch it because you'll lack a lot of like context for the bad things happening. But as it stands right now, I don't know, it feels messy. I think that's the thing. I think that's the summary word I want to use. It feels kind of messy. It does not feel like this is coherently coming together, and it feels kind of sloppy. And I hope my tiny brain is making it harder to see things that are coming for the rest of you. But man, it just seems kind of weird, and I hope it pans out. But what did you think about Alien Earth Episode 7? Let me know down in the comments below. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it and then come back and let me know what you think. Also, if you liked this video, make sure you like and subscribe because that's how I know I'm doing a good job on the back end. Other than that, hopefully this video made your day a little bit better today. If it didn't, I'll try to do so again in the next video. If I don't see you in the next video, I'll see you when I see you. Bye.